Have you ever met someone so charismatic, like so skilled at bending reality, that you wondered if they were like a true visionary or just a really, really good con artist?
It's a question that people have been asking forever.
Right? It's like, how do we separate those who genuinely want to like change the world from those who are just using their talents to like line their pockets?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question.
And it's a question that we are going to try to answer in our deep dive today into the world of Jin Yong's Wuxia masterpiece, The Deer in the Cauldron, to examine the life of Wei Xiaobao, a character who embodies this very dilemma.
Ah.
Now, don't worry if you haven't read the novel, because we will guide you through all the twists and turns of his journey.
Think of it as a historical fiction thriller with a dash of martial arts and even a sprinkle of comedy.
Yeah, set in 17th century China, during the tumultuous early years of the Qing Dynasty.
Yeah.
The story follows Wei Xiaobao,
Mm-hmm.
a sly, illiterate young man born in the chaotic underbelly of a brothel.
What's really intriguing is that this is a world where the Manchu rulers of the Qing Dynasty are trying to solidify their power over the Han Chinese population,
Right,
and tensions are running high.
of course.
And secret societies like the Tiandihui are plotting to overthrow the king and restore Han rule.
Yeah, so it's a powder keg, ready to explode, and into this volatile mixed steps Wei Xiaobao, a character who will use any means necessary to survive and thrive.
And he does this without any martial arts skills,
Really?
which is unusual for a Wuxia hero.
Yeah.
Instead, he relies on street smarts, deception, and a silver tongue to navigate this treacherous landscape.
Okay, so no kung fu master, but a master manipulator.
Exactly.
You've got to give him credit for resourcefulness.
Yeah.
But how does someone with no fighting skills go from a brothel to the heart of the imperial palace?
That's where the story takes a truly unexpected turn.
Go ahead.
Through a series of improbable events, he ends up befriending the Kangxi Emperor, the young ruler of this vast empire.
And so talk about an odd couple, a streetwise kid and the son of heaven. What do they even talk about?
Their relationship is actually one of the most compelling aspects of the novel.
Okay.
Imagine the conversations, the clash of perspectives, the humor that must have arisen from their vastly different backgrounds.
I can only imagine the emperor found Wei Xiaobao's blunt honesty a welcome change from the stuffy formality of the court.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that Wei Xiaobao is also a master opportunist.
Right?
This unlikely friendship gives him access to power and influence he could only have dreamed of.
So he's playing the game using his charm and wit to climb the social ladder. You can already see the grifter side emerging.
Absolutely. But the picture gets even more complicated when you factor in the various factions vying for power.
Okay.
Wei Xiaobao doesn't just befriend the emperor. He gets entangled with the Tiandihui rebels, remnants of the fallen Ming dynasty, and even the mysterious mystic dragon cult.
Wait, so he's playing all sides. That's a dangerous game, even for someone as slippery as Wei Xiaobao.
It is, and this is where the question of his true nature becomes really intriguing.
Yeah.
Is he truly loyal to anyone, or is he simply using everyone to advance his own interests?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it gets even more complex when you consider his relationships, especially with his 7 wives.
Yeah, his wives are a fascinating study in themselves.
Yeah.
Each one represents a different facet of Wei Xiaobao's personality and desires.
For example, you have Su Quan, who's incredibly intelligent and manipulative.
Right.
She uses Wei Xiaobao to further her own ambitions.
Mm.
And then there's Princess Jianing, a sadistic and spoiled royal who forces him into marriage.
Right.
Their relationship is a twisted power dynamic that reveals a darker side of Wei Xiaobao's character.
For sure.
So we've got a powerful emperor as a friend, a manipulative wife, and a sadistic princess as another wife.
Wow.
It's a recipe for chaos. It makes you wonder how he even survives.
He's like a chameleon, adapting to each situation, using his wit and deception to stay one step ahead.
But even a chameleon can get caught. Which leads us to the central mystery of the novel, the treasure hunt for the Sutra of 42 chapters.
This isn't your typical buried treasure story.
Okay.
The sutra isn't just valuable. It holds a secret that could determine the fate of the Qing Dynasty.
Wait, so the fate of an empire hinges on this treasure.
Precisely. And Wei Xiaobao finds himself caught in the middle of this desperate search.
Right.
The king, the rebels, everyone wants to find it, and they're willing to use any means necessary to get it.
Suddenly, Wei Xiaobao's games have much higher stakes.
Yeah.
This isn't just about personal gain anymore. His actions could change the course of history.
For sure. And that's where the line between grifter and gifted becomes truly blurred.
Right.
Is he using this opportunity to manipulate everyone for his own benefit? Or could he actually be a visionary, someone who sees the bigger picture and uses his cunning for a greater purpose?
It's a question that'll keep us guessing until the very end. But before we reveal too much, let's take a closer look at some of the specific choices Wei Xiaobao makes as he navigates this treacherous world of power, deception, and hidden agendas. So we've got Wei Xiaobao, this charming rogue who has managed to infiltrate the highest levels of power. But as we dig deeper into his story, the question becomes, what does he actually do with all this influence? Is he using it for good, for evil, or just for himself?
That's what's so interesting, right? I mean, it's easy to get, seduced by his wit and audacity.
Right.
But the novel challenges us to look beyond the surface and examine the consequences of his actions.
So let's take his relationship with the Kangxi Emperor, for example.
Okay.
We talked about how unusual this friendship is, but what does it actually reveal about Wei Xiaobao's character?
On one hand, he seems to genuinely enjoy the emperor's company.
Oh.
There's a playful camaraderie between them that transcends their social differences.
Yeah.
They share jokes, they confide in each other, and Wei Xiaobao even risks his life on several occasions to protect his friend.
That sounds like loyalty, maybe even a hint of genuine affection.
It does.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he also uses his position as the emperor's confidant to manipulate situations to his advantage.
Uh-huh.
He gathers information, spreads rumors, and even orchestrates events to benefit himself and his allies.
So he's playing both sides, even within what seems like a genuine friendship?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a recurring theme throughout the novel. He's
Wow.
constantly juggling different allegiances,
Yeah.
betraying one group while helping another, always trying to stay one step ahead of the game.
It makes you wonder, is he capable of true loyalty at all?
Yeah, good question.
Which brings us back to his 7 wives.
Oh, yeah.
Each one represents a different aspect of his life,
Uh-huh.
a different kind of relationship. What can we learn about him by examining these connections?
Well, his wives are a reflection of his complexities.
Yeah.
You have Suquan, who's driven by ambition and power.
Right.
She sees Wei Xiaobao as a tool to achieve her goals. And he's not entirely unaware of this. Their relationship is a fascinating dance of manipulation and desire.
And then there's Princess Jianing,
Oh, yeah.
a woman who's fueled by her own twisted sense of amusement.
Right.
She's attracted to Wei Xiaobao's rebellious nature, his willingness to challenge authority. Their relationship is volatile,
Yeah.
unpredictable, and often violent.
And yet, even amidst these tumultuous connections,
Yeah.
there are moments of genuine tenderness.
Okay.
He develops a fondness for Schwalmer,
Yeah.
a maid who remains devoted to him despite his flaws.
Right.
And there's a certain affection for Aki, a woman who initially despises him, but eventually comes to understand his complexities.
So he's capable of love, but he's also prone to using people, even those closest to him.
That's the paradox of Wei Xiaobao.
Yeah.
He's not easily categorized as good or evil.
Uh-huh.
He's a product of his environment, a man shaped by the chaos and uncertainty of his times.
But even in a world where survival often depends on cunning and deception,
Right.
there are choices to be made.
Of course.
How does Wei Xiaobao navigate the moral dilemmas that come his way?
That's the question that keeps us engaged throughout the novel.
Yeah.
We see him wrestling with his conscience, making decisions that often contradict his own desires.
For example, he's a member of the Tiandihui, a secret society dedicated to overthrowing the Manchu rulers.
Uh-huh.
But he's also friends with the Kangxi Emperor, the very symbol of the Qing Dynasty.
Right.
How does he reconcile these conflicting loyalties?
He doesn't, at least not in a way that would satisfy our desire for clear-cut morality.
Right.
He plays both sides,
Yeah.
often manipulating events to benefit whichever group seems to be in his best interest at the time.
But it's not always about self-preservation.
No.
There are moments when he acts out of genuine compassion,
Right.
even at great risk to himself.
Mm-hmm.
He helps those in need, he fights injustice, and he even shows mercy to his enemies.
These glimpses of his humanity are what make him such a compelling character.
Yeah.
He's a rogue, a charmer, a manipulator, but he's also capable of great kindness and surprising selflessness.
It's this duality that makes him so difficult to judge.
Mm-hmm.
He's a walking contradiction, a reminder that the line between hero and villain is often blurry.
And that brings us back to the treasure hunt for the Sutra of 42 chapters.
Right.
This quest isn't just about finding a valuable object. It's about deciphering a secret that could reshape the political landscape of China.
So the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah,
His actions could determine the fate of an empire.
exactly. And as he races against rival factions,
Yeah.
We see him making choices that force us to confront our own notions of ambition, loyalty, and what it truly means to be a visionary.
So how does it all end?
Yeah.
Does Wei Xiaobao find the treasure?
Uh-huh.
Does he choose a side?
Was.
Does he ultimately use his power for good or for evil?
That's where things get really interesting. We'll save that discussion for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've established that Wei Xiaobao is a complex character,
Definitely.
a master manipulator who's also capable of genuine affection and surprising acts of kindness. But as we head into the final act of The Deer in the Cauldron, the question remains, does he ultimately use his cunning for good or for evil?
Yeah, that's the ultimate test, isn't it? Does he rise to the occasion and become the hero, or does he succumb to his baser instincts and become the villain?
And remember, he's in possession of a secret that could change the course of history.
Right.
The fate of the Qing Dynasty, the hopes of the rebels, everything hinges on his next move. So what does he do?
Well, he does what Wei Xiaobao does best. He zigzags, he plays all sides, manipulates events, and somehow manages to come out on top, though not necessarily in the way we might expect.
So does he find the treasure?
He does, but the real treasure isn't the object itself.
Okay.
It's the knowledge it contains, the secrets it reveals, and once he unlocks those secrets, he realizes that true power lies not in ruling an empire, but in understanding the intricate web of relationships that hold society together.
So he becomes a puppet master, pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
In a way, yes. But he also uses his newfound knowledge to bring about a kind of peace, a balance between the warring factions.
Okay.
He helps the Kangxi Emperor consolidate his power,
Uh-huh.
while also ensuring the safety of his friends within the Tiantihui.
That sounds almost noble.
Right.
Like he's using his cunning for greater good.
It's a delicate dance. He's not driven by altruism.
Right.
But he understands that chaos benefits no one, least of all himself.
Yeah.
He creates a system where he can thrive,
Uh-huh.
but he also recognizes the need for stability and cooperation.
So is he a visionary or a con artist?
That's the beauty of Jin Yong's creation. Wei Xiaobao defies easy categorization.
Right.
He's a bit of both, and maybe that's the point. In a world where power is often corrupting, where the lines between good and evil are blurred,
Yeah.
maybe the most effective leaders are those who can navigate the gray areas, who can use their cunning to achieve a greater purpose, even if their motives are not entirely pure.
But in the end, does he choose a side? Does he stay loyal to the emperor or does he join the rebels?
He chooses neither, and in a way, he chooses both. He remains friends with the Kangxi Emperor, but he also maintains his ties to the Tiantihui. He understands that true power lies not in allegiance to a single ideology, but in the ability to bridge divides, to find common ground between seemingly opposing forces.
So he becomes a kind of mediator, a peacemaker.
Precisely, he uses his wit, his charm, and his deep understanding of human nature to bring about a fragile peace, and perhaps that's the most visionary act of all.
But let's be honest, he also gets to enjoy a life of luxury surrounded by his 7 wives and a seemingly endless supply of wealth. So he's not exactly sacrificing everything for the greater good.
That's true. He never loses sight of his own self-interest, but perhaps that's what makes him so relatable. He's a flawed hero, a reminder that even the most cunning, the most ambitious, the most morally ambiguous individuals are still capable of achieving great things.
So what can we learn from Wei Xiaobao's journey? What insights can we apply to our own lives, especially when we're trying to figure out who to trust, who to follow, who to believe in?
I think the key takeaway is that we shouldn't be too quick to judge.
Okay.
The world is full of complex individuals, people who defy easy categorization. Someone who appears to be a con artist might surprise us with their vision. Someone who seems like a hero might have ulterior motives.
Right.
It's important to look beyond the surface, to examine the nuances, to consider the context.
So we need to be discerning, to question motives, to not be swayed by charisma alone.
Exactly. And we need to remember that true leadership, true vision, can manifest in unexpected ways. It's not always about grand gestures or unwavering moral purity. Sometimes it's about the ability to adapt, to compromise, to use one's cunning to navigate a complex world and bring about a greater good.
And maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of Wei Xiaobao in all of us. That ability to hustle, to adapt, to find creative solutions to seemingly impossible challenges.
Perhaps. But hopefully we can learn from his mistakes, avoid his pitfalls, and use our own cunning for purposes that benefit not just ourselves, but the world around us.
So if you're ever faced with the question of grifter or gifted, remember Wei Xiaobao. He's a reminder that the answer's rarely simple, that human nature is full of contradictions, and that even the most unlikely characters can leave a lasting impact on history.
And if you're looking for a story that will challenge your assumptions, make you laugh, and keep you guessing until the very end, I highly recommend diving into The Deer and the Cauldron. You might just discover that the line between hero and villain is a lot thinner than you think.
And that's our deep dive into the world of Wei Xiaobao, a character who embodies the eternal struggle between ambition and integrity, between self-preservation and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Thanks for joining us.